banking has come a long way. You will agree with me from the days of brick and mortar to where we are right now in terms of just the disruption that has happened through the years with technology. So what I really want to do, gentlemen, is for you to just do a very brief intro of yourselves. Just tell us about yourself, your role, and what you do, and then we can just get into the conversation. So we'll start at the very far end.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Clifford Ogeto, the head of cybersecurity at Eclectics International. Been working there for about 5 years, but in the industry generally about 7 years. My main expertise is in application security, but of course, the organization is wide, so I'm also overseeing other aspects of cybersecurity management in the organization. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief. My name is Amadi Collinseni. I currently work with Equity Bank. I head the security architecture and IAM units of the Group Information Security. It's been over almost a decade of experience in the security world. It's an interesting place to be here, and looking forward to a nice panel discussion.
Thank you, Collins.
Yeah. Team Deori. I hope all of you are either my customers or partner. Head of cybersecurity for M-Pesa Africa. So M-Pesa Africa is the joint venture subsidiary of Safaricom Kenya and Vodacom Group. And we are charged with exploring and rolling out financial inclusion across all of Africa.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. May I request that we may have a bit more volume on Colin's mic? He's a bit, couldn't hear him clearly. But gentlemen, as we get into this conversation, and I'd like to start with you, Tim. First of all, congratulations on the big numbers that we saw.
I think I congratulate all my partners because we one of the secrets of success is that you can't do it alone. You have to carry along all your financial partners, banking partners to be able to be successful.
I've never known CISOs to be modest, but you're a first. But Tim, really, as we're talking about innovating securely in this space, I think I'd really want to get into to understand from your perspective. There are various tools that are being used in the industry to innovate, and what, in your opinion, are some of the tools that can be used to create that differentiation and create a competitive advantage while still balancing the security aspect?
Thank you for that. That's a good question. I would talk of, from my experience, one of the key differentiators, one of the key tools that has really accelerated our growth and given us numbers is something that only recently became a fad. That is artificial intelligence and machine learning. I know most of you might have heard of this, I think the last 1 year, last 2 years. But Safaricom has been using AI and machine learning for the last 6+ years. If any of you has bought a personalized data bundle, a data bundle that is specific based on your usage, or if any of you have interacted with the Zuri chatbot, which has been there for, I believe, more than 4 years, that you've actually interacted with AI and machine learning. I know OpenAI, ChatGPT is really what brought it out into our conscious. But looking at the potential for artificial intelligence, potential for machine learning, potential to be able to innovate new products, potential to be able to capture new customers, potential to be able to improve on existing channels and reach out to in more unique ways. I would probably put that as one of the key differentiators. Of course, it comes with its own security risks. It has its own unique profile because here we are talking of, for instance, do you have the correct access to privacy, the correct security on customers' PII data? Because remember, that data, while you may be holding it, is actually not yours, but is owned by your customer. So it comes with its own unique challenges. In terms of from a security perspective, it's also one of the ones that has also given us headache, trying to ensure that we give proper security assurance, proper security. We built in security onto this emerging product while not stopping innovation, basically. Looking back, I think over 15 years ago, the reason why M-Pesa was successful, to be honest, was because we were ahead of regulation and innovation. I can remember, I think 15 years ago when maybe some banks maybe were a bit resistant for M-Pesa, but now after embracing M-Pesa, they can be able to see the advantages of the same. But in terms of from an innovation perspective, I think I would put the biggest leverage that we currently using and we have been using is artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Interesting. And so maybe just to carry on a bit on that, from a regulatory perspective and compliance, have there been any challenges? Because I heard you speak about PII, have there been any challenges with the regulatory institutions, especially with your journey towards embracing these tools?
And to be honest, not yet. And the reason why is because for something like AI, that's something very new to the regulators. I believe it was last month when we actually had a similar conference summit with the data protection officer, just walking them through how we actually embed security, how we protect customer data, how we use artificial intelligence responsibly and ethically, so that not to, for instance, dupe customers or not to misuse their data. So right now at this point, I think it's for Africa, most of Africa, it's still very early from a regulation perspective. So that's an advantage and that's also a disadvantage. It's an advantage because it allows you to innovate rapidly in an agile manner. But it's also a disadvantage because you might find people out there, companies out there, which do not embrace ethics and integrity, but embrace the shilling over anything else, misusing this technology, misusing the data that supports machine learning, and probably even leading to breaches of these sensitive customer data.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Collins, let me move to you. We understand that when it comes to digital banking or smart banking, trust is a key issue. In fact, trust is a key issue generally, because even when we look at it from a situation of exchange of information, when you look at things like the three-way handshake and you look at things like the public key infrastructure, it's about trust between the parties that are communicating with each other or exchanging information and data, and hence the whole foundation, on crypto, on cryptography. But in essence, when you talk about smart banking, how crucial or how important is customer trust? Because even from the days before, for someone to use their credit card online, was a big deal, because you don't know whether you're going to be scammed and whether your data is going to be stolen. And then also just combine that with what are the cutting edge technologies that can be used for banks to foster and enhance that trust for their customers in the age that we are in?
Thank you. That's a very interesting question. Let me start by saying this. In as much as we know one of the best forms of business is a referral, doesn't mean we would eliminate the first touch points to that business being trust in that business, which comes with usage and consumption. And we know with usage and consumption, it has a tendency to drive acceptability vis-a-vis increasing revenue and customer base. So with respect to the question you asked, allow me look at this from three different layers or three perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
We'll look at from the external layer, the internal layer, and intermediary layer per se. The external layer, looking at the customer perspective. Let me play out this scenario. How can I give out trust? No human being would want someone else to know they have a loan. So imagine a socialite or a celebrity posted on social media, they have bought a very expensive car. I did something to celebrate about. Let's say there's a data leakage in a few hours' time that apparently this guy actually got a loan. That's a breach on confidentiality per se. Or should we say a situation whereby smart banking, it's supposed to allow people to have some digital experience around credit sales, insights, marketplaces, and all that. But it happens that the source of this data that should help with insights, let's say by data warehouse, gets to be tampered with. And it happens that somebody goes into to a web app trying to get some experience around insights, and then the data he's seeing.
So sorry, Collins. Let me just ask you to switch. If you can switch mics with Tim.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm audible enough.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. The data they are saying seems not to align with their taste per se. Now that's a breach on integrity, sort of. Or should I say students who wants to benefit from promo from a retailer site per se, but because they can't actually access or benefit because there's an availability issue on the service. Now, definitely, I won't trust that bank. You understand?
Yeah.
But security has come in a way whereby we try to ensure that confidentiality is intact, integrity is intact, services are available as when regarded or when needed. And one of the ways we could also support with the customer experience point of view is by engagement. And that's security awareness and training. We need to keep engaging these guys because it creates some layer of belonging, sort of, creates some layer of trust that yes, we are for them as they are for us, per se. And there are technologies you could use for engagement. You have your text messages, mails, campaigns as well. A good thing is every October of the year, there's always information security campaigns globally. Now, from the internal perspective, now this is where the big cake is. Now, how do banks ensure that their internal services are protected vis-a-vis the different attack surface, be it internal or external attack? Because you can't exclude external attack. You can't say, well, you can't exclude internal attack.
Yeah.
So I'll look at two different domains extensively. Let's start from application security.
Yeah.
If I'm to produce a product, or if a bank is to work towards having a product out there to be used by customers, in the simplest of form, you're supposed to shift left and shift right.
Yeah.
What am I talking about shifting left? Maybe some people might not be too technical, but when you want to have your product out there, there's what we call the software development lifecycle. So what we're trying to say is inculcate security from the beginning of your software development lifecycle. That starts with information gathering, your design, your build, your test, and then you release. Now, your shift left is saying at the point whereby you're doing your requirement gathering, ensure you have your security personnel involved so that they can actually give you tidbits. Because basically, when you look at DevOps, as mentioned by our previous presenter, and using agile methodology, you're trying to give value to the customer because it's based on what they want. So you want to ensure that in as much as there is that requirement of what the customer wants, you're ensuring that security is inculcated so that you don't have a breach on your confidentiality or integrity or availability of that service. Then when you're doing your design, ensuring whereby related stakeholders are involved, from your business analyst to your project manager to the business owner, there's something we call your security by design as well as privacy by design.
Yes.
Yeah, so you use this mechanism to ensure that there is data minimization in place with respect to the kind of data that will be requested from your customers. And you're trying to ensure that data is properly classified at that point, because when you want to embrace encryption, whereby you want to protect the data, there's that tendency of impacting on performance. So you don't need to encrypt everything. You encrypt based on what has been classified to be sensitive. So when you start knowing all these things before they get built, you know that yes, at the point where you're getting that product released, it's going to be healthy and secured enough for your customers. That applies also to the build per se. So there's what we call DevSecOps currently, which is trying to make sure that when your developers build, they're testing instantly. So it's to also embrace, or should I say, ensure that there's quicker time to market of that product, vis-a-vis ensuring that security is actually embedded in it. Now, I will shift from application security to identity and access management. This is based on insider threats per se. Insider threat is very, 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 it's bound to be there, whether disgruntled staff or non-disgruntled staff. In as much as you want to do your level of assessments on who is coming in, there's things you can't quantify, which is integrity. You literally can't quantify integrity. So with your IAM and access management strategy, you can definitely know all your identities, be it human or non-human identities. You can also ensure that privileged access management is in place so that certain privileged users would not abuse. And even as much as they might want to abuse, you will have that tendency to monitor and detect the activities they are doing, probably through technologies like your identity threats and detection response solution per se. These are technologies you could use to, should I say, mitigate potential insider threats. Let me there from there. There are other platforms you could use for your internal perspective. There's data security, there's vulnerability management and patch management, because you don't want a situation whereby your internal services and servers basically are being abused. And from there you could have a data breach. From there, the data protection office keeps knocking on your door and gets you fined per se. So let's go to the intermediary point of view. From the presentation, we could see the different channels that are used to offer services. We have your web, you have your mobile, you have your chat box. There are even variables at this point. Let me talk about the least expected one, which is branch. So assets could either be tangible or intangible at this point. And the beauty about branch is the fact that I can imagine a situation whereby you go to a branch very early in the morning because you need to do a transaction. You're allowed in, they are still having their meeting, and then there's the bank stamp just very close to you. Now, that's a very big asset that could be used to do other things. You could create a subset of the bank with that particular stamp. Now, that's protecting, because you don't want the situation whereby certain persons out there, because of the fact that a malicious user has a stamp of your bank, is selling certain products, and they think they're doing business with the bank. Reputational brand is being impacted at this point. So that boils down to even your web channel, per se. You want to have technologies like your web application firewall, which is currently evolving into a web application and API protection platform, your WAP per se. You want to also protect your mobile app platform. You want to ensure that the channel, your end users actually engage and embrace multi-factor authentication, whereby even if the first layer is being exposed, there's still another layer to authenticate them, basically, or should I say authorize them into using your platform. So I believe with these layers properly protected, you could provide some element of trust. You could provide some element of trust in terms of how your users should use or should trust your platform. The key thing among all the layers is just training, either from the customer point of view, from the internal usage point of view, or also from the intermediary point of view. Training is very, very important.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Collins. You really gone deep into it, including even just highlighting, the importance of secure by design, and DevSecOps process, just ensuring that applications, that security has been factored in throughout the whole life cycle rather than as an afterthought, as we were discussing yesterday on the WhatsApp group. But maybe Clifford, carrying on from there, because we are at a point where banks and institutions, there is the need to be the fast movers, fast to market, yeah. But there's also the balance that we're talking about, yeah. Maybe you can tell us from a regulatory perspective, what do you think is there anything that the regulatory bodies can do to hold institutions accountable from that perspective, that yes, you want to churn out these products and these applications as quickly as possible, but at the same time, are you following the best practices? Is there anything that, from a regulatory standpoint, that can be done or is being done from your perspective?
An interesting question. First, I'd start by saying regulation usually comes after technology. So it's usually innovators going fast, and then regulators trying to come up with regulations to, manage to regulate the industry. One thing regulators can do or have done is collaboration, collaborating with the organizations that are in those industries, because those organizations are the ones on the ground. They're the ones who understand the technologies. Mm-hmm. They have more knowledge and expertise in that area. So by working together with, when regulators work together with these organizations, they're able to come up with regulations that both that do not inhibit innovation, but at the same time put checks and controls in the process of in the process of innovation to protect consumers and also to protect competition.
Okay. Let's shift gears a bit, and maybe I can come back to you, Tim, because I know that you guys were one of the first guys to launch bug bounty initiatives and bug bounty programs, such as through the HackerOne platform. What can you tell us about the role of such programs in fostering just the enhancement of this smart age that we are in, and adoption of these disruptive technologies in the smart banking sector?
In terms of first talking about the bug bounty program, I think looking at the latest stats, and maybe for those of you who might not be aware, a bug bounty program, or the paid bug bounty program that Safaricom launched, the first in East and Central Africa, is a forum that allows white hat hackers out there who discover vulnerabilities or security weaknesses or gaps that would allow anybody, as a malicious person, to exploit a vulnerability. It's a forum that allows those white hat hackers to be able to securely communicate that weakness, that vulnerability, to Safaricom. We launched it, I think, over 8 years ago. And looking at the lifetime of that program, because what happens is that whenever someone shares that vulnerability and it's validated, we actually pay that white hat hacker. We have paid over $500,000 to white hat hackers across the globe. And I know a CFO hearing that would look that at a loss, but I think that is the model that we embrace for security collaboration. Because truth be told, Safaricom has a very large security team. I think over 70 people fully dedicated to security. For M-Pesa Africa, we have approximately 25 people just focused on M-Pesa security. But truth be told, we will not be able to capture all the weaknesses and vulnerabilities. Even with our adoption of a secure by design, we are human. So there are vulnerabilities. There is that 1% that will go out there. You release a product, you release an app, you release a website, and it has that one vulnerability. And for those of you who know security, you just know it is that one vulnerability that can bring you down. So for us, it has been a collaborative model, because we have identified quite a number of vulnerabilities out there in the wild that we needed to fix on products, on apps which were in the customer hands. And looking at that benefit, it allows us to at least gain a bit more confidence and assurance, and also allows our customers, our partners, to gain some confidence and assurance that if there's anything which slips, if there's any vulnerability, if there's any weakness which slips through the cracks, that will be identified. We continue to support that bug bounty program. I know internally it's still a challenge even to justify the same from a budget perspective. But looking at the number of vulnerabilities we identified, I think that is part of the innovation that we need to embrace in cybersecurity. I would be very happy to see more banks also approach that model. I realize banking, unlike fintech, is a more conservative arena. But if I don't know if the regulators are here, maybe they are, maybe they are not, I would actually encourage them to encourage banks to actually adopt a secure model of how vulnerabilities can be identified and shared. I think we saw one with one of the more prominent banks recently. I won't mention the name, but truth be told is that especially any financial company, at one point or another, you'll be hacked. They say in cybersecurity, there are two types of companies: those that know they have been hacked and those that don't know. So for us, in terms of our journey of being the ones that know we have been hacked, because we will definitely be hacked, and we will be hacked multiple times. what we try to do is basically leverage with the community, the white hack cybersecurity community out there, to be able to identify these vulnerabilities in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I have about 2 minutes left, and I just want to turn this to you, the audience. Is there anyone who may have a question or a comment on a question for the panelists regarding this subject, innovating securely for the smart banking sector? We can have one or two before we get back to the closing comments. Is a question? Okay, go ahead.
I think mine is the balance between customer experience and security. The journey of a customer onboarding 10 years ago was just KYC, but now we have AML, we have DKYC, we have blacklists. So where do we get the balance between customer experience and security? The second one is about phones. Since phones were introduced, I'm sure most guys have lost 1 to 10 phones. If you do device financing and you don't pay for your phone is blocked immediately. But if your phone is stolen and you report, let's say, to a telco, that phone still remains being used by someone else or sold to someone else and being used. Is it selective security or is it regulatory? I'm not sure between the two.
Okay, I couldn't hear you very well, but I think your first question was on balance between customer experience and security. And your next one was about the devices. Huh? Okay. Gentlemen?
Maybe I could go. I'd like to answer the first question. I think business comes first. So we must prioritize business and customer experience. Then it is our task as security experts to come up with innovative ways to secure customers without inconveniencing them. That includes innovations in biometrics, for example, that make authentication of customers much easier. So I'd say, in my opinion, we have to prioritize business needs first, that is customer satisfaction. Then we go back to the drawing board and see how can we secure these processes without inconveniencing customers.
Okay. Yeah, in terms of the second one around device security, I think that's a painful one because for me, I've actually experienced it. One of my phones was stolen, and that was over 11 months ago. And up to now, we've not been able to trace it. What we realized, what I learned later on, is that security is a war. So you have the good guys and the bad guys constantly fighting. So there are ways in which phone manufacturers have tried to restrict, protect tampering of the email so that the device cannot be changed, for instance, can be blacklisted. But obviously, in this constant war, in this digital war, the bad guys also, the fraudsters, also have come up with new tools now, which allow, I think, even recent phones, S20, S21, S22, for instance, to be able to change the email so that they can change that email. And then if you have a blacklist for that specific device, they can modify it, and then it can still be used and it can still be able to connect to the network. I think it's a constant war. There is no cure-all, to be honest. It's just a matter of adapting. And it's the same thing even with cybersecurity. You cannot be able to rest on your laurels saying that you have implemented the full security. You need to constantly upgrade, update, and learn and relearn to be able to stay ahead of the bad guys.
Thank you, Tim. Indeed, there's no such thing as 100% security. Now, our time is up, but Ian, if you'll allow me, let me just have 30 seconds. Tell me, in the next 5 to 10 years, what do you think are the biggest security challenges that banks and financial institutions are going to face? 30 seconds only.
In my view, as we're expanding, there's increasing integrations between service providers, and that by default is increasing the exposure. And to me, that's my biggest worry.
Okay. All right. Collins?
I think mine will be based on how much of research and development is the cybersecurity world engaging in with respect to the evolving landscape of IT. We're talking about quantum computing, We're talking about generative AI,
Yeah.
which has enhanced social engineering by deepfakes. So, in as much as IT will keep evolving, we need our R&D to be intact to move at that same pace as well.
Right. Tim?
For me, I'd say twofold. I think in the future regulation, once the regulators adopt a fully digital model and also update the laws and regulations to support digital security, I would not be surprised if in the next 5 years we have a financial institution being fined multi-million shillings because of a breach or because of private data. Maybe the second one I would also put is AI, artificial intelligence. In the future, you'd find maybe you don't need a large team to protect your security. Maybe you just need some bots which are constantly adapting, identifying new threat actors and vectors for attack. So yeah, I would put both those two, regulation and AI, as the future challenges, but also opportunities in our area.
Awesome. Clifford, Collins, Tim, thank you so much. You have been a very engaging panel, and I think we have tried our best to delve into the discussion, and it's been a very interesting discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been our time. Please help me in appreciating our panel.